Afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 539th Imagine Buffalo program and the 161st Imagine Greater Buffalo YouTube program hosted by our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. We're so glad you joined us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN, as I like to pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation. We are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And certainly, we hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speaker. Brian Trzeciak and John Montague from the Buffalo Maritime Center are joining us to discuss the Bicentennial Voyage of the Erie Canal boat, Seneca Chief. The Seneca Chief was the first boat to make the Erie Canal trip in 1825, and just last week, the Buffalo Maritime Center launched its replica Seneca Chief, moving the boat out of its canal side long shed building location and into the water. The build took 4 years and involved over 200 volunteers. In 2025, the replica Seneca Chief will travel to New York City to commemorate the Erie Canal's bicentennial. John Montague came to Buffalo in 1984 to set up the Design History program at Buffalo State. There he is now Professor Emeritus. He was co-founder, trustee, and recent past director of the Buffalo Maritime Center, focusing on the collection, research, and restoration of historic watercraft of the Niagara frontier. Trained as an art and architectural historian, he has worked as a designer, film animator, illustrator, and boat builder. He has been active in architectural preservation and heavily involved in plans for Buffalo's waterfront redevelopment. He's also a good man that gets things done, and I've enjoyed working with him over the years. Brian Trzeciak joined the Buffalo Maritime Center in 2016 as a shop manager and is now in his 7th year as the executive director. Previously, Brian worked as a toy designer with Fisher-Price. He has taught English, writing, and philosophy, and he has spent time as a community organizer working with volunteers to keep kids safe and in school. Brian is proud of all the work that the Buffalo Maritime Center has done and continues to do in the community to promote the maritime heritage of our region, STEM education, and the preservation of the tenets of craftsmanship. Wow, two good people. Let's hear from our speakers, John and Brian. Take it away, guys.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Really appreciate you guys having us on. We're really excited to tell you all about the Bicentennial Voyage of the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief. So let's jump right into it, okay? I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go. And what we're seeing here is a packet that we have been giving to 28 different municipalities and ports across the state of New York. We are planning for this bicentennial voyage, and we have already started. I think we're about like 23 stops that we visited already. And we're going through this entire thing of like what to expect, what the project is, what the BMC is, and what to expect as we come by. And it's been a really interesting and exciting time for us. So I guess we're just going to delve right in. By the way, what you see here, this is one of the first drawings, and it's been revised since because the design has changed. But Henry Schmidt from Fisher-Price, and he works with us here at the BMC, did. And this is just kind of talking about the entire project from the design all the way to the building and all that stuff. So So let's jump right in. Let's talk about the Buffalo Maritime
Yeah,
Center.
well, Buffalo Maritime Center started many, many years ago at Buffalo State as part of the design program there. And when I retired in 2006, we basically took it off campus and became a 501c3, and have really been just growing exponentially since that time. We're involved with outreach programs into the community, teaching kids STEM program and so forth. We're also very early on, way back in the early 90s, we started working with adults who came in to work on some of these historic replicas of boats. We've done a number of those over the years, and so we quite arrogantly thought, well, gee, the Erie Canal bicentennial is coming up. We've built a lot of boats. Couldn't be that hard. And that's what sort of got us into this whole project of building the canal boat. But it also was a wonderful time for us to express something that we've been doing for many, many years, which is trying to engage the community on multiple levels. And that's where we've gone with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that ties into our mission of building boats and building communities. That's a condensed version of it. So as we talk about the Erie Canal boat, Seneca Chief, really want you guys to take away that we are commemorating the Erie Canal with this whole project, but we are celebrating community. So this is, as Dennis was mentioning, people, so many people were involved with this project, and it's just going to keep on growing. If you were there at the launch, or if you read anything about the launch, you've seen all these people outside. So we're going to keep on going here. Let's talk about the Erie Canal Boat Project, right? It is a community boat building project, and actually Dennis tapped into a lot of what it says on this page right here, but we are the Seneca Chief is the flagship of the Erie Canal Bicentennial, and it's going to travel from Buffalo to New York City right during the World Canals Conference, September 24th. We're going to start in 2025, and after that, the Bicentennial Voyage, but Buffalo as its home. This whole project is going to tell stories and demonstrate traditional techniques of boat building. That's what we've been doing, building this boat, but that's going to carry on. We are going to explore, and we have been exploring the history and the impacts of the Erie Canal and its communities. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, and then foster that feeling of connection and responsibility between people, the community, and the environment too. So this is a huge project. This boat will be different than the boat initially that was built back 200 years ago, because we live in a different time, and that this is going to reflect, our project is going to reflect that.
Yeah. And I would add to that, one of the inspirations of this years ago was that building this boat was an opportunity to reach out to the community, and our whole approach to this is to get as many people involved with this as possible, as many hands on the boat as possible in many different ways. And it's really about building community. We were very much inspired by the Amistad visit back, I think it was in 03, 06, somewhere in there, where the whole community got engaged. It started out just as focusing on the city, but of course, being linked to the Erie Canal, it's now across the state, and it's even growing beyond that.
So what you're seeing on the screen right now is what we believe is a pretty justified version of the history of the Erie Canal. When we started this project, even a couple of years ago, we were talking about the Erie Canal differently than we are today. The narrative has grown. We've gone at that, what we call dominant narrative of, we know the story of Governor DeWitt Clinton taking the water from Lake Erie to New York and dumping it in the water with the Wedding of the Waters. But a lot of the narrative that we see out there stops there. But what we're doing, and trying to do at least, is to broaden that narrative, right? So when we talk about that many Euro Americans believe this land was a wilderness that needed to be tamed, while in fact indigenous peoples have lived and prospered with this land for thousands of years. That's the history. So when you're talking about the one side, we're leaving out the one side. We're doing our best to reach out to different communities, people of the Haudenosaunee people, to see how we can broaden that narrative. But and another line that sticks out is that the eventual success of the canal would solidify the displacement of the Haudenosaunee people and permanently impact the ecosystems of New York State. And that's a fact. So as we're talking about this, we're not just talking about Erie Canal as this glorious thing, which, by the way, it did a lot for New York State. It did a lot for the United States, but we're doing, again, providing that opportunity to talk about different cultures.
This is why we've sort of adapted early on when we kind of begin to be more sensitive and aware of this, that we're talking about a commemoration of the Erie Canal, not just the celebration of the Erie Canal. So we're just like an archaeologist digging up some other civilization, like from the point of view of where we are now in the 21st century, we can look at these things, we can raise these subjects up, remember them, and then deal with them with today's values and today's insights.
Exactly. And the name Seneca Chief often comes up. Well, why did we use the name Seneca Chief? Is that derogatory, right? What came to pass is that we reached out to indigenous community, and we talked with some members of that community. And what we realized was, one, this is an opportunity to call it the Seneca Chief. Is an opportunity to talk about the indigenous culture and the Haudenosaunee. So that's something that we're proud of, and we want to do much more than we are doing now. So this is only the beginning. So let's talk about the construction.
Well, the construction of the boat actually began with the conception of the boat started back in the late 90s, when this idea that, what's missing in Buffalo's history is their sort of Romulus and Remus story, their origin story. And the Erie Canal is an enormous piece of that. And in fact, it's even baked right into the city's logo. So it seemed like a good idea, and a fairly simple one at the time, that we need to build a canal boat in the harbor, in the center of where all of this city germinated. There were a lot of things that had to be done, like the Erie Canal being redug and rewatered and so forth and so on. Lots of infrastructure with the canal side and so forth. But we were finally able to pass the idea on to other people, and the people get excited about it. We got the long shed built. It started in 2000, right in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. We broke ground. We cut the ribbon for opening the building, laid down the keel, as you see over there on the left-hand side. That was the beginning of the boat. People would come down and say, when are they bringing the boat down? And our answer was, it's already here. It's just not finished. And that took us for the next 4 years up until just the other day, where we launched it.
So we're actually going to go away from this for a bit, and we're going to tap into and actually we're going to use Derek G, is a photographer for the Buffalo News, took amazing photos of the launch. And this was the boat leaving the long shed the other day. I mean, look at that picture, and everybody around. And a lot of these people actually worked on the boat, but this was something that I will tell you that I was not expecting to be as emotional as it was, right? There's a video on here of me, and I've been
many tears
up. Yeah. Well, just because
it's like a birth.
We've been working on this for 4 years, and all of a sudden it leaves that building, and we are not going to be using the building after this, right? So the boat is now in.
Brian, we're not seeing the video, or at least I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No.
There's no video. No, I'm showing the pictures.
I still got your construction.
Oh, you do.
Oh, there we go. Well, let's see what you can do.
Here, hold on a second. There we go. Thank you for calling that out. Okay, can you see it now?
There you go.
There we go. Okay, technical difficulties. All right. Yeah. So anyway, there's the picture of the boat leaving the long shed. We had to take off the bottom door of that to get the boat out.
Take down a few light poles.
So what an amazing event to get that boat out.
The largest truck I've ever seen. It had 48 wheels.
Right. So this team of guys came in and just strapped that boat down, and we thought it would take an hour and a half to hit to the port of Buffalo, and it took about 30 minutes. So they were trucking along, literally. That's the boat going over the bridge. It's such a cool image there. And then lifting into the water, you can see how close it is to midships. That means that all of this and the bow and the stern, we're just hanging off, and we're all sitting there, praying,
hoping it doesn't break in two,
hoping we don't hear anything cracking or something like that. And it actually did really well. It got in the water. It started taking on some water. There are two planks with Dynel fabric in between, so it's really watertight, but all wooden boats leak. So this boat did take on some water. It has since been swelling, and it's taking on very little at this point.
We had the pumps ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. So this is pulling into the commercial slip for the first time and going onto the bridge. That was and this is of course the boat in the commercial slip where it's new home, and that's where it will remain when we're not doing sea trials and not getting out and all that stuff. Incidentally, this boat right here, the little guy up front, we're calling the Scoocher because we need a bow thruster. The Seneca Chief is not powered by anything. So when we had, and there's some more on there and turn it up. So this is the Churchill, CL Churchill, that is the power of that tugboat. So what I'm going to do is going to switch back to the presentation so we can keep flipping along. And let's talk about the timeline. So we are in May. We've just launched the boat. The inauguration is coming up on May 25th, and we want everybody to join us down there. And that's when we are going to pull in the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief and officially welcome it to the commercial slip.
There will be bagpipes.
Yes, there's gonna be bagpipes, there's gonna be
Required.
drumming. There's gonna be there's gonna be a crowd there, and we're gonna have the speeches and all that stuff on top of the boat. So it's gonna be a wonderful thing. We really want you guys all to be a part of it. And then during the summer, we're gonna do the sea trials. We're gonna be going to Brockport this year. We're going to go to Lockport, Medina, and then Brockport just to see how this boat works. We're going to have to take a lot of time, just, the operations, how many volunteers, how many people need to be involved. How are we going to sleep on this boat, right? That boat is getting smaller and smaller on the inside. So how are we going to make that happen? It's going to be winter berth in Lockport. And there we go. Go back. Okay. And then of course the World Canals Conference is happening on September 21st through 25th. And this our departure for New York City is happening on September 24th.
2025.
In 2025 of next year. And then we are making it down to New York City on October 25th to be there on October 26th, 2025, the 200-year anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal. Now, for all your Erie Canal nerds out there, we know that it started in Buffalo, but we don't want to be traveling in New York City in November. So
yeah, they weren't worried about the weather, and I'm sure they were
a
anxious
little
to
bit
get
more
moving
about
on the
that. So by the way, for the record, I do love Erie Canal nerds. So there you go. Let's go to the Bicentennial Voyage, the itinerary. This is what the map is going to look like. 28 ports along the way, including Buffalo and New York City. We are staying 2 days in Fairport, in Syracuse, in Troy, and in Kingston. We're going to be spending more days, but mostly it's going to be pulling up that evening, doing some programming with the community, and then being on our way because we have an itinerary, we have an agenda to get to. So it's going to take about 4 weeks and a couple days.
DeWitt Clinton had the advantage of being able to go at night and just waving at people. And there were a lot of these towns that were just barely existed at the time. So he could move a lot faster in the 19th century.
Yeah. So we are very excited about this whole thing. Let's talk about the visitor experience. When this boat travels from town to town, it will be pulling up, and we're going to have an exhibit on the boat. And Scott Wood and Eddie Niblo from BMC. Scott is exhibit designer, has been doing an amazing job working with Eddie on this exhibit. So it's going to be a wonderful thing. But when it pulls up, we're going to show people how to boat build, how to shape a paddle. We're going to talk about the Erie Canal, its impacts, and the good and the bad and all that stuff. And then we're going to be on our way. So let's talk about what the exhibit space is going to be. As you walk on the boat, we believe we're going to be entering from the stern. You're going to walk into the crew area to get an idea of what life was like back in 1825. And in the cargo area, we're going to have boat building across cultures, right? So one of the things to know about this boat is that it brought along with it a birch bark canoe. And back in the day, that was probably seen more as exoticism, a bit of as even the Seneca Chief name is, that stinging honor to those cast aside, as Joe Salmon, who's been working us, said so eloquently. But we're going to be building our birch bark canoe to have that as an opportunity to teach about indigenous boat building and then teach about boat building across cultures as well. And then we'll have a passenger area where people are going to get a glimpse of how they lived back then and actually how we're living today on the boat.
And that's where we presume that it was in that chamber that DeWitt Clinton was DeWitt Clinton's offices. So there's some things we know about that we're going to try to be able to interpret.
Right.
And then in future, the boat will be used. We'll be able to manipulate a lot of those interior spaces for different kind of programming.
There you go. So the boat, you should know, is 73 feet long, 12.5 feet wide, and it's about 40 tons. We found out, not 44, but it's close enough. And it's made out of white oak. The planks are cypress. There's a bunch of different woods on this boat. So again, it's unpowered. It's powered by the C.L. Churchill, which, if you're a fan of the Lois McClure boat out of Lake Champlain, you know that the C.L. Churchill spent some time, actually its entire life almost, working with the Lois McClure.
We've given it a new life.
There you go. So as we're talking to different partners in all different towns, we're talking about how much has to go into this planning of the Bicentennial Voyage. And we've started probably a year and a half ago, even talking about, and you wouldn't believe that, or maybe you would, that we're coming up on 2025 in September of leaving, and we're cranking on right now. Okay, what do we need to put this together? How many, the logistics involved and all this stuff. It's like a big event, a fundraiser every single time you pop up into different
like
towns.
the moving circus too. We have a whole onshore contingent that's gonna.
So you're gonna have about probably 12 people on the water. And then you're going to have another 4 to 6 people on land who are going to be talking with everybody. So we are talking about the visitor experience and the education involved. How are we going to have curriculum that is going to coordinate with local schools? And then, of course, marketing. We have to let people know that this is happening, and how are we going to be able to do that? So we're in the knee deep in that. And then, of course, development and fundraising. We need your support and everybody else's to make this happen. So it's going to be a great experience, but we need to basically raise money to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, so I just want to say how much we're grateful for our major supporters of the Erie Canal Boat Project. That's David and Joan Rogers Family Foundation. Obviously, the Canal Corporation has been amazing partners with that. Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, allowing us the use of the Long Shed building, and then in Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. And there's a lot of other people who've been involved to make this thing a reality. So, and the last thing we had is in this packet is that if you're interested in getting involved, click on this or do the QR code thing and let us know. And we'd love to have you a part of planning and how to do this, because we need all the help we can get when it comes to this. So we'll stop right there.
Well, I'll just add one point to this, that we imagined that this is how it would turn out, and it's quite amazing that it actually has.
Yes. Yes.
That's really kind of a miracle.
That's a great segue as well, John. Thank you very much. Brian, what a great overview that the two of you have provided. Folks, this is your chance to put in some questions. I thought you mentioned that you had to kind of use a tugboat situation to move the boat around at this point. I assume mules will not be incorporated for the grand adventure next year, but how will it move?
Well, we will be using the tugboat primarily, obviously, but much of the towpath still exists, and we've been talking to some people about draft horses and maybe having doing some sections, at least when we are working around our area and so forth, to just demonstrate that, because it's I mean, you can at least get some sense of for several miles, some sense of the authenticity of the replica. And that's one of the great advantages of a replica, is that you can actually be there in the context. The only thing that's different is that it's 200 years later, and you have different things in your head going on. But that's part of what we're aiming for, the authenticity of this. Good. Floating is still the same, you know.
Totally understand. How are we doing for questions?
Good. We have a couple questions.
Good.
Sure. The first one. Could you expand on the usage planned for the boat after the initial Erie Canal trip?
Sure. So what we're going to be doing is, after we get to New York City, we're going to be coming back to Waterford, New York, and in 2025 into 2026, it's going to stay in Waterford. And then for the semi-quincentennial, I think that's what it
Yeah.
is, of the States.
250.
Yeah, you're going to be we're going to be traveling back to Buffalo that spring. And essentially what we're planning on doing is having it as Buffalo as its home, but we plan to do a trip every year. We might not have as big of a trip as we're planning in 2025, but you're going to be seeing it leave for maybe not New York City. We'll see. It really depends on how everything goes this year, because it's a lot of cost going into it, but you know, a lot of good stuff coming out of it too.
Yeah, one of the things that we had planned at the very beginning was that this was when we got into the idea of that we'll go do the Wedding of the Waters in New York, and we'll do that, is to incorporate and inspire, hopefully, the rest of the canal communities. And of course, Buffalo or New York State is literally laid out and largely created by the canal. And I think that's already working, where we've visited all these people. They're very excited about the Erie Canal and authentic canal boat and so forth and so on. And that's something we want to keep doing in the future. And one of the reasons that we, in a sense, I won't say we overbuilt, but we built the boat in a higher quality probably than most of the boats were done in the 19th century. We'll hurry up, slap the thing together, make some money. But we're looking for a long life of this boat. So this should go on for years.
Yeah.
That's great. That's exciting. Our next question is, are there any more thoughts about replicating the telegraph cannon fire that was executed at the onset of the Wedding of the Waters?
There are thoughts, yeah.
Well, there are thoughts. I know a lot of people are really excited about that sort of thing. I think it would be an interesting thing to make happen. I don't know if we could do it digitally. I know people want to do. I don't know how many towns still have cannons. But we have one cannon. I will tell you, we have one cannon. We can at least start the whole thing, and then kind of leave it up to
the concept can be done. It may not be. There may be some modern compromises. Maybe fireworks could be shot off, you know, within ear range of one another. But no, that was the beginning of the telegraph. That was, you know, that's where
it's very American to like blow something up. Right?
Yeah,
I think we gotta just keep on shooting.
And that's where Samuel F.B. Morse got the idea of the telegraph. He said, if you can make send that message from Buffalo to New York City. He was in New York City at the time. That, you know, if you could kind of create a code or something from there, you could send messages.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we're working on it. Yeah. We're working on it.
We have two more.
Good.
Our next, a great launch last week, gives us something to be proud of. Can people volunteer to help build more boats, and what background does one need?
Yeah, you need no background at all. And we do look for more volunteers at the Buffalo Maritime Center. We have a couple different projects. Now it's a little bit strange in terms of we're just trying to finish this boat, but I would encourage you to visit our webpage and go to the volunteer section and fill out that whole form. And you know, we are going to be building more boats along the way. We work with kids. That's a huge part of our programming. And you know, we always need volunteers for that.
And we're already thinking about our next big project. We got to rest a couple of days.
Yeah.
But another major project like this.
Yeah.
One of the things that's amazing about this is we created this wonderful group of volunteers who really know a lot. They can really do almost anything. One of the miracles of this project, we had like over 200 people working on this boat. And only 2 professionals, only 2 paid staff. And as I've oftentimes said, if we had to go out and find these people who have an incredible range of talents, we wouldn't be able to find them. If we had to pay them, there's no way we could possibly pay them what they're worth. So
yeah, there's over 65,000 hours have gone into this with volunteer labor.
We somehow want to hold this miracle together. So it requires another.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make a moonshot or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but please look into us and you know, reach out to us. We'd love to have you involved in the BMC.
Thanks. We have one more on our side. How is the Maritime Center funded, and is it a part of the Buffalo Naval Park in terms of funding or management?
No, we're very separate from those guys. We love them dearly, but they have their own they're their own 501c3. I don't even know if they're 501c3, but
But we do have some
we are-
crossover people that have worked there, but also come over and work
But
with us.
regarding the funding, we are foundation funded, grant funded, membership funded, donations. We have some programs that we offer to the community, and we earn revenue and things like that. If you want to support us, you can go take a boat ride over at Hoyt Lake, or a flamingo ride, because that goes back to our educational programming. So, we want to do more of that, and sponsors for this particular event as well for Bicentennial Voyage is something that we're very much looking into.
We are 501c3, so we're always looking for new sources of revenue.
Yes,
So
yes.
You mentioned, is that it, Ellison, or?
That's it.
Good. Just a few minutes more, but you mentioned the tie-in with Hoyt Lake in Delaware Park. Maybe expand on that. Because that just probably started here, or will start around Memorial Day, I would think.
Yeah. So John could talk about the history a little bit
Yeah.
more, but I'll just say that our students who go through what we're calling our hand-to-hand program and our navigator program. Hand-to-hand is a program where students and schools come to our shop here at Riverside, Western New York Maritime Charter School, Riverside Academy, St. Mary's School for the Deaf. And they are building these boats to do a student launch. And we're going to do that on June 11th, by the way, which you all should come to that. It's an amazing event. And then we have our navigator program, where our education coordinator, Chelsea, goes into the community with our Build-A-Boat trailer. And so we don't expect the community to come to us. We try our best to go to the community, and we're looking for more partners for that too. So and to get more kids out on the water. So they build these boats, and these boats that you're going to be using, and I'll say specifically the rowboats and the canoes, were built by students, but the flamingos were not, but they're still super fun.
we may try a flamingo later.
Yeah.
But just the history of that was that went way back when we were a part of Buffalo State. We started the Center for Watercraft Studies at Buffalo State, and we started using the lake. And as some of you may remember, in the 90s, there was like no signs everywhere, no picnics, no water, no swimming, no fishing, no nothing, no rowing, no. And we tried to open up the lake, which we did. And around the time of the bicentennial, or the centennial of the Pan American Centennial, we started putting boats on the lake, and then we developed the lake as a kind of the goal of the boats that we were building with the students. So they would launch the boats there, and then that became the livery, and that's kind of grown. So again, our whole purpose has been to kind of educate people about the waterways, and to restore the waterways and exploit the waterways of Western New York.
Explore the waterways.
Explore and exploit.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds bad. Yeah, sorry. Exploit them.
And that ties in with the good work of the water keepers that have helped remove the pollution much with their good efforts on the lake and in the creek, Skajackwada Creek, that flows into it. Guys, you're most impressive. I am curious, did you get a diverse number of students from around the community, or were they just neighbors? Mention where you are. You're physically located on the west side. Did you just get that, or did you manage to get people from Greater Buffalo?
Are you talking about for students, right?
For the students that were these volunteers helping you with the Seneca Chief.
Yeah. So we have, we're in Riverside, up between Tonawanda and Niagara. So we're right in back of Riverside Academy. So those students work with us, and then we have other students travel to us and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean,
and for the building of the Seneca Chief, we have one guy who would come every Saturday from Syracuse, and this is just part of his routine to come and work on the crew from Syracuse. It was a 2.5-hour drive, both ways. And we had a lot of people from Lockport. Early on, we built the Durham boat that is in the locks at Lockport as a kind of community group. We had about 40 people all together on that project, and many of those people come down from Lockport to work on the boat. But it really did become a regional thing. If people were turned on by the idea of working on this, they would make the effort to get to Buffalo, to get down to Canal side, and to be a piece of this. So that idea of being a community, being a community outreach really worked actually beyond kind of our, well, not beyond our dreams, but our expectations.
Mhm.
That's good. You know, Exploring More has these younger kids coming in, and they have an Erie Canal exhibit. Make sure you
Well, we work with them.
Yeah.
We've done workshops with them. Yeah. So
make sure
yeah.
they're help promoting your efforts as well as you promoting
yeah.
theirs. Obviously, that
Yeah.
where I want to go with that. Guys, thank you. It's from my standpoint, just to know you and watch this journey and do something like this. I've looked forward to it. We've had a few other programs in your past history, but now you had last week a launch, and this gets real now to the community with that. As you mentioned, the images in the Buffalo News, and this piece, I hope, can be used as a marketing piece to help promote more volunteers, more funding for your incredible efforts. So hats off to
Join
both
us
of
on
you.
May 25th too.
Yeah,
Thank
May
you. Thank you.
25th.
It's May 25th is
Yeah.
the inauguration.
Photo ops.
So it would be a great thing. And then just go see the boat. I mean, it's down
Yeah.
there. It's a part of Buffalo now. It always has been, but now it's in the water. So there you go.
It's physical.
Perfect. And it's at, by the way, a morning, afternoon on the 25th. Do you know off the head?
I'm actually going
11
to,
a.m. I think.
yeah,
Good.
I could
Good.
actually, yeah, it's going to be 11 a.m. And if you can go here, go to our events page and you'll see it right away. Once it loads up right
Oh,
here.
perfect.
Okay.
There it is. There it is.
And that's
Yeah.
on 25th at 11 a.m. So there you go.
Well, this is all exciting. Guys, thank you very much. We're going to wrap it up. And
Yeah.
thank you, folks, for joining us again this week. Come on back next week. We'll have Felicia Beard, the Associate Vice President of Racial Equity Initiatives at the Community Foundation, and Glenn Jackson, the Chief Diversity Officer at M&T Bank. They'll be speaking about and both participating in our 15th annual Buffalo Day at Chautauqua on July 23rd. That's a Tuesday. Everybody from Buffalo, living in Buffalo, zip codes 14201 to 14280 is free at Chautauqua on Buffalo Day. So we have a panel discussion. There'll be 4 people on that panel at 3:30 at the Hall of Philosophy. There'll be other Buffalo activities going on during the day, but these will be 2, and I'll have the other 2 speakers on that panel here in May and in June. So this is like a preview of Buffalo Day next Tuesday here at Imagine Buffalo. So join us if you can. I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and have a good day.